So let's just go ahead with the talk. I was blathering about something else. Okay. As far as announcements go, all of you know the center is closed except for private meditation and so on. So that's about all there is in the way of announcements, unless anyone has anything that they think I should announce that I have either forgotten or didn't know about. Okay. October is a month for study of Bhakti Yoga. A Bhakti yogi, bhakta, has a devotional relationship with God. This is developed over time by study, prayer, ritual, and worship. As a mature bhakta, you enjoy seeing everything in the universe as the work and glory of your Divine Belovèd. This includes yourself, and so you give every action, thought, emotion, perception, and tendency a Godward turn. Your prayer is for the carefree self-surrender of a child in its mother or father's arms, and ultimately union with your beloved. So in the meantime, before we're a mature bhakta, here's a short poem. Being, creating, doing, sharing. The joys of these is why we're here. When you're truly tired of this, just sign off and head for home. Being, creating, doing, sharing. The joy of these is why we're here. When you're truly tired of this, just sign off and head for home. So we'll talk about the bhakta's way this morning of heading for home. First, from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Sunday, September 21st, 1884. A devotee. How can a householder keep on with his worldly duties if he is overwhelmed by bhakti-madness? Now, mind you, this is Bengal. This is the seat of Vaishnavism and the Chaitanya's bhakti-madness. And Sri Ramakrishna said, people are mad for many things, family, riches, fame, and so on. And he taught, be mad for God. But in answer to this devotee's question, how can a householder keep on with his worldly duties if he's overwhelmed by bhakti-madness? The master, looking at him, says, there are two kinds of yogis, the revealed and the hidden. The householder may be a hidden yogi. No one recognizes him. The householder should renounce mentally, not outward. But it is not good to force oneself into renunciation. I say to people, do this as well as that. Do your worldly duties and call on God as well. I don't ask them to renounce everything. With a smile, one day Keshab Sen was delivering a lecture. He said, O Lord, grant us that we may dive into the river of divine love and go straight to the ocean of Satchidananda. The ladies were seated behind the screen. I said to Keshab, how can you dive once for all? Pointing to the ladies, I said, then what would happen to them? Every now and then you must return to dry land. You must dive and rise alternately. Keshab and the others laughed. This morning, that's the end of the quote from the master. This morning, we will discuss the Master's observations and instructions and how they might work for you in this difficult and turbulent time. And here's the caveat. This is not meant as personal instruction for you. We are studying together the art of spirituality. It's not my right to instruct you, and I don't intend to. I may say some things emphatically, but that's because I believe them truly. But you should take from this what you find useful, if anything at all, and make it a part of your life and practice if you think it will be useful to you. We're studying how a bhakta can, someone following the path of devotion, can do what they must in the world and at the same time follow the path of God. So how do you, living as a householder and following the path of devotion, decide what to renounce and when? I'll repeat that question. That's the question we'll try to answer. So how do you, living as a householder and following the path of devotion, decide what to renounce and when? Adi Shankaracharya says that with sustained attention, viveka, discrimination between the real and unreal, and vairagya, release of worldly desires and attachments, will lead you forward in spiritual life. Shankara and Sri Ramakrishna say you can attain self-realization and live as a jivan mukta, one who is liberated, free of all limitations in this very life. I'm going to repeat that. Adi Shankaracharya and Sri Ramakrishna say you can attain self-realization and live as a jivan mukta, one who is liberated, free of all limitations in this very life. Let's further define and discuss Shankara's two components of a devotee's sustained attention. These practices that are central to his and the Master's teachings. And after I give these two definitions, then we'll pause for any comments or discussion or questions. First, viveka, discrimination between relative reality and the highest truth, or the absolute. The absolute is infinite, unchanging, undivided. Existence, knowledge, bliss absolute, also known as Brahman. Brahman is unknowable by the impure mind. So how can you discriminate? We're taught that the best you can do is say, that is not it, this is not it, neti neti. But what is not it? All that is relative. Within the relative are time, space, and causation, Maya. This is your experience of this realm of confusion and misunderstanding, which is finite, divided into names and forms, and constantly changing. The second part of the relative is your self-identification as a separate I, the sense of I am and I, me, mine. And finally, the third part of the relative is Ishvara and Ishwari, the rulers of Maya. From time to time, these divine beings take human form as divine incarnations. So there's three parts of this: time, space, and causation, Maya, your self-identification as a separate I, and then those who come to set us free, the divine incarnations. The second component of Shankara's teaching is vairagya, release of worldly desires and attachments, which means detachment from the rajasic and tamasic activities of your body-mind complex, and control of your attention with your senses under restraint, which yields serenity of mind. You attain greater clarity of vision and more frequent peace of mind when you have learned to control your attention. So before we go on, are there any comments or questions, anything to offer from your own wisdom or experience, or any concern or question you'd like to raise?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
Could you expand on the third that I didn't get clearly? After neti, after removing I and mine, and the third one, if you can elaborate.
Are you talking about Ishvara and Ishwari?
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, within the Hindu trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the creator being, Brahma, responsible for creating universe, all that we experience, for creating Maya. And then the sustainer and protector, Vishnu. That's it. And then the third, of course, is Shiva, the agent of transformation, or some people refer to it as destruction, the destroyer. I prefer transformation. And the reason for this is that Vivekananda explains very well that there's no such thing as destruction. There's only transformation. But let's talk, as you're asking, about this business of divine incarnations. Vishnu is the one, the sustainer and protector, who takes human form, this we're told, and of course, within the Sanatana Dharma, the ones most familiar to us are Rama, Krishna, Sri Chaitanya, and Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna said, pointing to his own body, he who was Rama and he who was Krishna is present here as Ramakrishna. So, and if you read the story of Sri Ramakrishna's life, you find that Vishnu appeared to Sri Ramakrishna's father, Chudiram, and told him he would be born as his son. So why do they come? Well, this is described very beautifully in chapter 5 of the Gita. When virtue declines and vice increases, in other words, when life becomes as we're experiencing it now, I come, Vishnu says, in the form of Krishna, I come and I make myself a body and come among you to restore the world of Dharma, which of course is not very accurately translated as righteousness. It means much more than righteousness. It means a world of balance and sanity and truthfulness, and the divine attributes are much more available to us. So among those who are followers of Sri Ramakrishna, he is regarded as another of these. And so that's why his instructions and his observations are taken so seriously. Does that get it for you, Uma?
Yes, yes, thanks.
Okay. Anything else, please? Yes, that was a wonderful question.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
what about Sri Ramakrishna's mother? I forgot if she got the light from Vishnu or Shiva.
Shiva. She was going home from being out somewhere. She passed a Shiva temple, and out of this temple came this force, this light, and enveloped her. And afterward, she knew that she was with child. And that's what she told Shudiram when he came home. And then he told her of his vision, which had taken place in Gaya, where he had gone on pilgrimage. So, yes, both aspects are there. And that's why Swami Vivekananda, in his writings, if you read his talk, My Master, he says of him that Sri Ramakrishna is extraordinary. And in the evening prayer, he refers to him as Varishtaya, the full, the true chosen ideal, and that he is responsible for transformation of one age into another, but is the fullest incarnation that has, these things are beyond our understanding. We don't understand Sri Ramakrishna. We don't understand Chaitanya or Krishna or Rama. We just have some grasp of the fact that they are, what they say they are. They offer us these things, and if we believe in them, it's very reassuring. And the Swamis of the Ramakrishna order tell us we can very much believe in the representations made by Sri Ramakrishna. And of course, where Sri Ramakrishna lived most of his life, the Dakshineshwar temple, the manager of that property for many years was a man named Mathur Babu. He was the son-in-law of Rani Rasmani, the woman who founded the Dakshineshwar temple. And he one time witnessed Sri Ramakrishna walking back and forth in a corridor, and as he walked one direction, he appeared to be Sri Krishna. When he walked back the other direction, or Sri Krishna or Vishnu. When he walked back the other direction, he seemed to be Shiva. And Mathur Babu actually rubbed his eyes, and this vision persisted. Mathur Babu wasn't given to visions. He was a very practical man, actually quite a worldly man. And so he went to Sri Ramakrishna and he told him this, and Sri Ramakrishna says, "Oh, that's wonderful, but I know nothing about it." Which is the way Sri Ramakrishna would often answer, and I think he was answering absolutely truthfully. That it wasn't something he was doing deliberately to impress Mathur or something.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Anything else from anyone? These are wonderful questions.
Brother Shankar?
Yes, Bhagavat.
Going back to the householder question, many times I ask myself, when you say householder, whether he is holding the house or the house is holding him.
Yes.
So that decides whether you can be apart from the world even when living in the world. Who is holding whom? Now, if that is how it is, to me, as a householder, there is a tremendous opportunity to see the real nature of universe and Brahman Because right before your eyes, you see old people, your parents, you see the young people, your children, you see them how they are disappearing right before your eyes. You see them how they are disconnected once they grow into adult and are not as much dependent on you. You see the neighbors, how they get old, how they die. This is more than enough to startle you to a thinking that who am I, where am I, and what is my ultimate destiny. That should lead you right away
Yes.
as a straightforward pathway to Brahman.
Well, thank you, Bhagirath, and you're absolutely right. The only thing that has to happen is that you take these perceptions that you have and control your attention enough to contemplate them, concentrate on them, and take them into meditation where you begin to really understand them in some depth, which is a gift of grace of the divine presence that exists within us. That we live in a realm of confusion and misunderstanding. You have but to look around you to see it everywhere. Very few, look at who's here this morning, very few take the time, make the effort to answer those questions that Bhagirath just so well said. Who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? What is all this? So thank you, Bhagirath. Anything else from anyone before we go on?
Brother Shankara, this is Haima.
Yes, Haima.
Well said by both of you. Wonderful knowledge and wisdom for us. I recently found out the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God book by Isherwood, Huxley, and Swami Prabhupada, who translated it. It is a wonderful, small, condensed version of Bhagavad Gita in a simple language. It really, really is explaining so well a lot of things.
Okay, I thank you very much, and I agree with you, except for one thing. It is not in any way condensed. Everything that Sri Ramakrishna said, everything that Sri Krishna said,
yes,
all 700 verses are there.
They're translated,
very capably translated.
Yes.
It's smaller than most versions of the Gita because the Swami did not make any commentary. He did not make it a scholarly or academic work. Along with Isherwood, they just tried to translate what Sri Krishna said into English that all of us can understand, particularly those of us for whom English is a first language, and we can't read the Gita in one of the Indian languages.
That's true.
So it's a masterwork. I agree with you.
It's really a masterwork. It just it's the essence, the full core of the Bhagavad Gita is right there, and it is easily explained to the commoners like me or Western community. At least we grew up with some Ramayana, Bharata, Bhagavata, and Bhagavad Gita while we were growing up. But people who never grew up listening to those stories, this really explains very well. I loved it. Thank you for recommending that. Just wanted to share with my peers.
I will be recommending the reading of chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita later on in this talk because that's what we'll be discussing next week.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. Thank you.
Thank you, Haima. Anything else, dears?
May I share something?
Well, as long as it's not too long, Uma. Are you going to read something?
No, not read. Just discuss.
Oh, okay. Well, then, fine. Yes.
Okay. I just happened to read Mahatma Gandhi's interpretation of Bhagavad Gita. And I came across a very unusual, fresh interpretation of Gandhi about the concept of avatar.
Mhm.
And according to Gandhi, it's very interesting. It's very unusual in this sense. He thinks avatar is not actually God coming down or descending on earth, but according to him, it is human highest state of imagination in which we imply that the base qualities, the finest qualities of Vivek and Vairagya, renunciation, karuna, compassion, we implant these ideas into somebody who exemplifies these virtues or ideals. And that's why he says, for example, that when Arjuna saw Krishna's very terrifying vision, about hundreds of teeth and plenty of heads and God in its terrifying form, he was so afraid and frightened. He said, God, please resume your human form.
Yes, your familiar form.
Yeah, so familiar form. So what he implies by that, actually says, not imply, that this is how human beings elevate themselves. God does not come down. We elevate our virtues, ideal form of ourself, into that idea of avatar. So
Well,
that doesn't
certainly,
come down. We go up.
certainly Mahatma Gandhi is someone whose opinions are to be taken seriously. So you have heard from Uma what Gandhi said about this, and it's up to each of us to make up our own minds, keeping in mind that the divine presence is without limitation. It is, by definition, infinite and unlimited. So what it can do or not do, be or not be, there are many opinions, and all of them are just that. They are maybe very informed opinions by very elevated souls. But as St. Thomas Aquinas said, draw a circle around all you know of creation. Draw a circle around all of creation, and God can barely fit a toe there.
Mhm.
So, and this was someone else whose experiences and knowledge we have reason to take seriously.
Sure. Thank you.
So thank you, Uma. Thank you for bringing that perspective. Anything else? This is what we're here to do, to discuss these things, to bring these various points of view.
Brother Shankara, this is Fred.
Yes, Fred.
Greetings and hello to everybody in the class. And I just wanted to thank everyone in the class when they share. It really helps to hear all the viewpoints that come out. I just wanted to say that. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Fred, and you've heard that same feeling expressed from here. It's more than a feeling; it's a conviction. This is what we're here to do. We're studying the art of spirituality together. Every one of us, if we are to believe the scriptures, if we're to believe the experiences of the saints and sages and avatars, we are the divine being. So there is wisdom in every one of us who's present here, and so this is tremendous. So thank you, Fred. Exactly. Anything else? All right. For the purposes of the rest of this talk, this assertion is made. You are your attention. You are your attention. And until you achieve final realization of the truth of your being, that attention is the only thing you can truly control. I'm going to repeat that because this now is the foundation assertion for the rest of what is said. And it answers the question, how do we decide what to do? You are your attention. And until you achieve final realization of the full truth of your being, your attention is the only thing you can truly control. Behind Maya, which is a projection of the impure mind and is your apparent reality, is the Atman, pure consciousness, the unchanging witness of change. This consciousness, this consciousness, awareness, witness, and Brahman are all the same thing by the four names: consciousness, awareness, witness, and Brahman. They are all the same. Your experience of it from moment to moment, you experience it from moment to moment as attention. You experience this reality, which is behind the appearance, as attention, which we can deliberately focus here or there, or allow to be distracted by desire, attachment, aversion, and all the rest of the numerous distractions that we all know so well. So the question you really, truly want to keep in mind and answer from moment to moment is, what deserves my attention? The question you truly want to keep in mind and answer from moment to moment is, what deserves my attention? Bhakti Yoga, as a spiritual practice for gaining control of your attention, has this answer: the Lord alone is worthy of my attention. That is all I wish for and pray to see. The Lord alone is worthy of my attention, and it is all I wish for or pray to see. So this is a devotee's prayer. It's a little song. I'll sing it for you. O Lord, take my hand. O Lord, take my hand. Without thee I may fall. Without thee I may fall. O Lord, pull me on. O Lord, pull me on. Without thee I may stray. Without thee I may stray. O Lord, take my hand. O Lord, pull me on. Without thee I may fall. Without thee I may stray. O Lord, draw me near. O Lord, draw me near. Thou art my all in all. Thou art my all in all. Without thee I may fall. O Lord, take my hand. O Lord, pull me on. O Lord, draw me near. Thou art my all in all. Thou art my all in all. Without thee I may fall. O Lord, fill this heart. 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 With you, thou art my all in all. Thou art my all in all. Thou art my all in all. Without thee I may fall. So that's a simple prayer of the devotee for the Lord to take charge, for the Lord to show the way, for the Lord to pull the devotee to himself or herself, and finally, to fill the heart to the exclusion of everything else. This is a little devotee's prayer. Now, you can learn that prayer as you've learned other prayers, or you can write your own. You can make a prayer of your own that says the way you feel it, the way you see it. Ultimately, through self-surrender, I will realize I am one with that living divine presence and be free. Bhagavad Gita contains detailed instructions on the practice of Bhakti Yoga. Please read chapter 12, which we will discuss next week. Bhagavad Gita contains detailed instructions on the practice of Bhakti Yoga. Please read chapter 12, which we will discuss next week. As motivation, it may be useful to remember that the Gita is Sri Krishna's guidebook for playing the game of human life. All of the Gita is instruction. It's a guidebook for Arjuna, who is every person. Man, woman, they're embodied in Arjuna. And you can find the truth of that when you read chapter 1 of the Gita. See if you don't find some identification with Arjuna's cry from the heart, his anguish about what it means to leave the world behind, to fight the battle that will free you from Maya. Through spiritual practice, somebody has their mic. I'm getting, now they've closed it, okay. Through spiritual practice, as taught by Adi Shankaracharya, Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Krishna, and others, you can learn to control your attention and thereby gain control of your senses and your mind. You then make a very deliberate and steady, if gradual transition. You then make a very deliberate and steady, if gradual transition from living even an extraordinary worldly life to abiding in an ever higher truth, the knowledge of the self, the Atman, that which is the truth of your being. So before we go to what it is that we free ourselves from, it's a statement by, it's part of, from Swami Vivekananda. Are there any comments or questions? Anything to offer from your own wisdom and experience? Or any concern or question you'd like to raise?
Hello, brother.
Yes, Stephen.
Yes. My question was prompted by what you said about Arjuna, like being all of us.
Every
and
person, yes.
Earlier, you said something about quoting the Gita about the virtue and vice, and I don't remember the quote, but what my question is, just like Arjuna is every man is, does every man have the man, woman have the potential to restore the sanity to the world and bring the virtue? And
if you read Swami Vivekananda's Christ the Messenger, you will see that it is the destiny of every soul to become a Christ. What does it mean to become a Christ? To sacrifice all that you are, your very life, for the sake of humanity. All of us, each moment when we're practicing spiritual discipline and becoming more centered and more self-realized, which is a gradual process. But each of us, as we go through this process, becomes more radiant and is part of that process of restoring sanity to the world. Do we have the ability to do it single-handedly? Well, each of the avatars has done their best, and yet sanity comes and goes. And sanity is the birthright of us all. Sanity and spiritual fulfillment is the birthright of us all. So each one of us becomes sane one at a time. We are each unique. We are that infinite being. We are that. But that's something to be realized. And all of these spiritual practices, we're talking about Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion today. But all of these yogas, all of these spiritual practices are a way of unfolding that and revealing that. Two comments. First, Ramana Maharshi. For those of you who don't know, Ramana Maharshi was a fully self-realized soul. His life is just one amazing story after another. He lived, I think, into the 1950s. And he said, the greatest gift that you can give to the world is to know who you truly are. Because then something comes from you that is transformative. We live in a universe of vibration. Every one of us who begins to vibrate at a higher and higher frequency, so to speak, that's a metaphor, is beneficial to the world. I said there were two things, and then the second one slipped my mind. Maybe it'll come. But in any event, yes, we are part of that process of restoring sanity. We each, ultimately, according to Vivekananda, will become a Christ. And my teacher, Spirit Swami Swahananda, once stopped me as we were walking and we were talking about Christ. He said, we are each called upon to be a Christ. Thank you, Stephen. That was a very, very on-point question. Anything else from anyone?
Hi, this is Tom. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, of course.
So I really like the question, what deserves my attention? It seems like one of those basic questions, like who am I, that could be used in meditation. And also, especially today with computer technology, it seems like my attention can just get sucked in for hours on end into the internet, watching videos, reading things, spending time giving my attention to something that really doesn't matter much. and that's designed by very skilled experts to get my attention,
And hold it. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they're good at it. They're getting paid a fortune, and they're making a fortune. Every time I click on something, somebody gets a fraction of a penny, and that builds up. And one thing I've been doing lately I was talking to a friend who's also active at Vedanta, and who had the same problem. We text each other once a day, or at least once a day, and tell each other how much we've used the computer. And it's working, because it's embarrassing to admit how much of my attention has been wasted on this thing. So it's also, it's sort of like AA, or NA, or any of these 12-step programs where you confess, how helpless you are over your addiction. In this case, it's the addiction to the internet, addiction to electronic technology. So anyway, that's what we're doing. And I thought I'd just give a plug. If anybody wants to join us, just text me, and you can join in confessing your internet addiction. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And yes, that is one of the great distractions. It's very interesting to note that the people who are right at the forefront of designing these systems, which result in screens of various kinds, severely limit how much their children can interact with them. Some won't allow them to play with them at all during their developmental years. It's just very interesting, because they know, as Tom pointed out, how deliberately they are working to gain, hold, and control your attention. And so it does become an addiction, and it is a pernicious one. But it is just another appearance of name and form. It doesn't need to be a threat to anyone here with us this morning. We can all put it in the category of what I'm about to read from Swami Vivekananda. Yeah. But before I go ahead, is there anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara.
Yes.
It's doesn't also, it matters a matter of choice, what content we are looking at. If we are listening to Vedanta lectures on the internet, YouTube, or on the computer, or if you're doing, depending on what choices we make, I don't know, maybe we're doing too much of that and not, enough spiritual practice. That is something to think about. But it matters what content we are absorbed with.
Oh, yes. It's much better to listen to Vedanta lectures or watch Vedanta lectures than a game show. Better to listen to Swami Sarvapriyananda than watch The Price is Right. But nevertheless, the question always is, does this deserve my attention at this moment? And because life is lived moment to moment. And all you have to do is think about that just a little, and you know it's true. We live moment to moment to moment. And so the more alert and aware we are of the question, what deserves my attention in this moment, the more likely we are to make a more auspicious decision about where to put our attention. Thank you, Neera. That was right on point. Anything else from anyone? All right, these are the last words from Swami Vivekananda. He explains the limitations that we become free of when we achieve self-realization. I'll tell you when this quote ends. This is the start of the quote from Vivekananda. This eternal play of light and darkness, indiscriminate, indistinguishable, inseparable, is always there, a fact, yet at the same time not a fact, awake and at the same time asleep. This is a statement of facts, and this is what we call Maya. We are born in this Maya, we live in it, we think in it, we dream in it. We are philosophers in it, we are spiritual people in it. Nay, we are devils in this Maya, and we are gods in this Maya. Stretch your ideas as far as you can. Make them higher and higher. Call them infinite, or by any other name you please. Even these ideas are within this Maya. It cannot be otherwise. And the whole of human knowledge is a generalization of this Maya, trying to know it as it is, trying to know it as it appears to be. The whole of human knowledge is a generalization of this Maya, trying to know it as it appears to be. This is the work of Nama-rupa, name and form. Everything that has form, everything that calls up an idea in your mind is within Maya, for everything that is bound by the laws of time, space, and causation. Everything that is bound by the laws of time, space, and causation is within Maya. That's the end of the quote. And yet, as we have heard, you can learn to control your participation in Maya and be free. We've talked about a bhakta's way of going about it. We'll talk about it some more next week when we talk about chapter 12 of the Gita, which is Krishna's very, very eloquent and persuasive description of what the path of devotion offers us. So is there anything else from anyone? This has been absolutely exquisite from sitting here. This is just what we come together to do. Anything else to offer? Any comment, any question, any concern, any wisdom from your experience?
Brother Shankara,
Yes.
are we still planning on a lecture sometime in the future on time, space, and causation, which was a request?
Yes, dear, we'll do that. We'll do that when we study Jnana Yoga next.
Okay.
You know, it goes month by month. Time, space, and causation are richly explained by Swami Vivekananda in his lectures on Jnana Yoga. These are gathered together as that book, Jnana Yoga. The talks that he gave in London and New York and San Francisco on Jnana Yoga.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for the question and the reminder. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara, I just want to make one comment of Father Thomas Keaton. Yeah, his proverb is, silence is God's first language and everything else is bad translation. He said that. And I think we are absorbed with that Maya towards the bad translation of life instead of the good translation, which is,
Yes.
Towards
when
that.
When Father Thomas Keating said that, he was quoting Meister Eckhart, just as a footnote.
Yes, that's it.
So would you repeat what it is that he said?
Yes, it is, silence is God's first language and everything else is bad translation.
Yes.
And we are always leaned towards the bad translation. We spend more time in that bad translation of life than now we are realizing there is no other easier way than meditation, which is silence, which is God's first language to get closer to him.
Yes.
see him inside us. Actually, yes.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Thank you, Haima. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
And thanks for reminding us of that very beautiful quote.
And
If
also,
you remember, there was a few weeks back, there was a talk on sinking into silence. Yes, Haima, there was more?
there is one more. Mother Teresa also said silence is a friend of God. That's what she quoted in her books, one of the books I read. She said that silence is friend of God. Look how the nails grow in silence, trees go in silence, everything grows in silence. She repeated that several times in some of her books too. Thank you so much. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Haima. Any other comment from your own experience or wisdom? Any other concern or question you'd like to raise?
Brother Shankar,
Yes, Bhagirath.
the word Maya, if you split it in a Sanskrit way, Ma, don't, Ya, go there. Just don't go there. So when you see the whirlpool in water, the Maya will tell you, oh, I can handle it, don't worry. But once you go there, you sink deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yes.
That's how when you start your sansar, your physical sansar in this life, you think, oh, I can swim through it, don't worry. But you sink further and further and further and further and further into it. So the best way, the meditation is really not only silent, it's a silent observation. If you keep silence without observing, that silence is just a wordlessness. The words are not there, but it's not a productive period either. The productive period is you see, you observe, and yet you do not enter it.
Thank you, Bhagirath. So well said. The whirlpool is so inviting. That's what vritti means, the vibrations in our mind stuff. The word vritti means whirlpool. And it means it will pull you down from your knowledge, your innate knowledge of your true original nature. It will pull you down into the experience of Maya. Name and form. The impressions of the mind. And, this is why we must be dauntless. We must have shraddha. Shraddha means faith, yes, but it also means courage. It means dauntlessness. It means the ability to press on even when the wind is very much in your face. Oma Satoma Satkamaya. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Avirmoiti. Oh, dearly beloved Lord, lead us from this realm of confusion and misunderstanding to thine abode of clarity, silence, and understanding. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through, light us through and through with thy everlasting shining presence. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let that infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beings everywhere. Any final thought from anyone? All right. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our mother and father. So, for those of you who wish to join us, tomorrow night we'll have our reading and discussion group on the book Love Poems from God. Tuesday we continue to, and we're coming to the end of the book on the life of Holy Mother, Sri Sharada Devi. On Wednesday nights, we're about 3/4 of the way through Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga. And then on Saturday, we're studying Swami Prabhavananda's collection of talks called Realizing God. Really quite a remarkable thing. It's like sitting at the Swami's knee. And next Sunday, we'll talk about chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita. Any final thought or comment from anyone? All right, dears. Until next time. So good
Thank
to
you
be
so
with you.
much, everyone.
Thank you.
It's so nice we had this time together,
Yes.
just to share a laugh and sing a song. Seems we just get started when we must be parted, and it's time to say so long. That's a little paraphrase of a song by Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
But I mean it when I sing it. It's very sweet. So long, everyone. Until next time.
Adios.
Adios.